Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in with a My Hero Academia discussion video. This time specifically talking about something that after reading the next chapter, chapter 324, I kind of got inspired to want to talk about it because I thought it was a pretty cool observation and I wanted to share it with you all. As you can kind of see from the title, we're going to be starting this video talking about Ochako and another character from My Hero Academia, the Can't You See Kid. And as you can see in the title, I probably called it something like Ochako's moment is the Can't You See Kid moment on steroids, and I hope that interested you because I do think this is a worthwhile point. Anyway, thank you for tuning in and let's just get right into it. So this is an appreciation video, appreciating the story flow of My Hero Academia and the little tricks that go into it. So starting it off, check this out, Ochako's moment. You have a panicked crowd scared about imminent danger. The climate is tough, unprecedented tragedies have occurred, they're scared, they don't believe in the heroes, they want to get away from danger, they want to be safe. Ochako goes out there, she wants the people to see Izuku, she wants them to see the person who is risking his life for their sakes. Why can't the people see the boy who is risking it all for their sakes? Ochako just wants people to give Izuku a break. Moving into the Can't You See Kid moment in chapter 189, you have a panicked crowd, scared about imminent danger, like actually, death is a literal block away from them. The climate is tough, the symbol of peace had just recently fallen, they're scared, they don't believe in the heroes at this moment in time, they want to get away from danger, they want to be safe. Can't You See Kid goes out there, he wants people to see Endeavor, he wants them to see the person who is risking his life for their sakes. Why can't people see the man who is risking it all for their sakes and exposing himself to danger? The kid just wants people to not give up on Endeavor and actually see that he's trying to help. Okay, so you should be able to see the similarities with how I describe those things. At base, these two moments are similar. And when you look at it, you can see that Ochako's moment is the natural evolution, the escalated form, the leveled up form, the exaggerated, the dosed up, on steroids form, the more dramatic version of a story beat and dynamic that we've gotten before. When you break these moments down into their most basic elements, that being public panic and a hero who is trying and the one person that comes out there and begs them to see, you can tell that the author is making use of the same story beat and the same fundamental dynamic. But this video is not about bashing the fact that there are similarities between these moments. This video isn't about bashing the fact that he's repeating the gimmick of someone stepping out in front of a crowd that is in panic. No, see, this is how it should go. Stories should have recurring elements that keep coming back bigger and better because at that point you're dealing with a theme. And to be fair, this kind of mechanisms happens in other parts of the story. For instance, the villains, they come back bigger and better. Bigger and badder is a natural consequence of storytelling. When it comes to these moments, the recurring problem is important because it shows the nature of just how fickle the Hero Academia universe is, and it shows how real of a problem the people's lack of appreciation for the heroes is. So this isn't a video about comparing the two moments and highlighting how they're similar. This is a video actually about Nezu and what the author does to make Ochako's moment seem more prominent than it really is, and how that kind of interacts interestingly with other rhetorics presented in the most recent chapters. See, Nezu is the one that I think is the concerning element in a way with how he is used and executed. In chapter 323, he brings in this rhetoric: lack of understanding, intolerance, it seems we're always just one step away. Try as it might, humanity struggles to make true progress down its path. Issues shift and voices clash, making that single step feel like an impossible journey. He brings up this rhetoric at the beginning of the chapter, and then he has it frame Ochako's moment, and in doing so, he makes it seem as if Ochako is doing something that's one of a kind. It's on the last page where that feeling becomes a little bit stronger. That single step feels like an impossible journey, and I believe once someone takes that unlikely step and carves a path, the ultimate hero will rise up. When I read that wording just, for me, it feels really biased. And ultimately, there's a nuance that I want viewers to appreciate. Ochako is valuable, of course, 100%. She is valuable. That's going to be something that is not challenged throughout this video by the time we get to the end. But we have to be very careful saying that Ochako is the only valuable person. In the same way that Ochako says that no one is special, Ochako is not special. Ochako is not unique when it comes to Nezu's ideas. Nezu's framework and narration ultimately biases readers into adding more significance to what Ochako says due to the wording and the build-up. I mean, you can't throw ultimate hero there, and you can't say once someone takes that unlikely step, because that implies that no one has taken that unlikely step before. You can't say those things and not expect some little biasing to happen. So let's study the "can't you see kid" moment while also making use of Nezu's words. Issues shift and voices clash. You can see that there in the "can't you see kid" moment. Peace has shifted and the voices of panicked people clash, and someone makes a comment about this is society without a symbol of peace. These people don't believe in endeavor. They don't believe in the guy that's risking their life for them. Lack of understanding and intolerance a bit. The intolerance, I think, is still low in the "can't you see kid" moment, as it should be, since the "can't you see kid" moment is a lower version of what we're talking about. But lack of understanding that Ochako faces is the same kind of lack of understanding that the kid is dealing with. Mind you, again, a little bit lower. The kid knew to say that endeavor was risking it all, thereby acknowledging that, hey, actually, endeavor is in danger. And as we later see, thanks to the kid's moment, people kind of shifted more toward giving Endeavor a shot. They kind of opened up their mind a little bit more toward him. They kind of tolerated Endeavor a little bit more as the #1 hero. What is ultimately visible is that "Can't You See Kid" took a step toward understanding heroes. When you have the kid with threat of death, again, literally behind him, standing up against the general feeling of the crowd, and of course doing the very brave thing of criticizing people that had given up on the hero, you can see that the kid definitely took a step that is in the same vein as the step that Ochako takes. Ultimately, "Can't You See Kid" took a step that led to more people tolerating Endeavor, and this leads to the big thing. Nezu points out that it seems that they're always a step away. Well, arguably, it seems like that because the one step is happening repeatedly in less dramatic situations. And I know, it's kind of weird to say that the "Can't You See Kid" moment is less dramatic, but it is less dramatic from the story perspective. Because "Can't You See Kid" moment doesn't get as much build-up as Ochako's moment does. In the context of Hero Academia, people are taking the one step, and that naturally happens because of the storytelling process. You kind of need progression in a story, so it ends up happening in lesser moments earlier in the story. When Nezu recognizes and draws importance to Ochako's one step, it's vital that you realize that Nezu does that because the story is building up Ochako's moment. The author needs Nezu to add significance to Ochako. He wants to guide the way that the reader thinks in this particular situation. But when you look at the wider context, in a way, it's not significant in the same way that Ochako says that Izuku isn't special. What makes Ochako's step special compared to other steps is that the distinction is truly that Nezu is there to observe it, and that the author wants to make Ochako's moment a big deal compared to other moments. Now back to Ochako. Let's cover the paradox of the specialness. Ochako says that no one is special. I agree with her halfway. Ochako is special because the author has made her special. But in context, I agree with her. Ochako isn't special because no one is special by the same logic that she uses. She is a teenager in a hero program who stood up against the crowd to support the person that she felt needed to be supported. She begged for people to really see him. In the same way, "Can't You See Kid" stood up against the crowd when there was literally a villain attack and told them to open their eyes and see Endeavor and his efforts. At the fundamental base, the kid did what Ochako did. Now, I will say, you can play the game of who is braver than the other, but you really shouldn't compare a civilian child even younger than Ochako and his bravery in the face of possible death to make a point about the hero trying to do his best versus Ochako, a hero in training's bravery when she's behind fortified walls spreading a similar message. I think, just accept that Ochako's moment is of a higher order and move on there. Don't get caught in the reeds of trying to play the comparison game because I don't think it's going to look very good. Now, What's great about the Can't You See Kid moment is that Ochako's not in it. In other words, the author doesn't need to make a big deal of it in order to make the main female character seem worthwhile. He has no main character obligations to that moment. Because Ochako's not attached to it, he doesn't need to blow it up. He doesn't need other characters to come in there and frame it. He doesn't need to have other characters come in to praise Can't You See Kid in real time. And ultimately, there's nothing wrong if Can't You See Kid's moment crumbles later because he's just a random character. The Can't You See Kid moment, what it does is that it gives us a framework to understand how this would actually work in society when the I have to make sure that the main female character gets something meaningful force isn't at play. Now, speaking of narrative forces, this brings up the weakness of the single-step rhetoric in a storytelling format. And again, the Can't You See Kid moment is what shows it. Thanks to Can't You See, if people warm up a bit more to Endeavor, they tolerate him as a #1 hero a bit more. They understand his role in everything a little bit more. But look where we are now. In one of the videos, I said humanity's superpower is the ability to forget. And I think that is a little bit in play when it comes to Can't You See. What's important to see is that in terms of the wide population, these moments of understanding are only as good as the next disaster. The next disaster strikes, a chunk of the goodwill is gone. That's why for Ochako's message, its greatest ally is the lack of time to see it crumble. Or in this case, Ochako's greatest ally is the ending of the manga. If we get a sequel series like Boruto, which also maybe has less supervision from the main author himself, the message of understanding heroes might take a few steps back because stories need opposition and escalation. And unfortunately for hero stories, civilians are usually a really good source of opposition. One thing I do want to say though is that even if society takes a step back, the effect of the step forward won't completely die, and that is what brings us to the cooler part of the rhetoric. What the one step does is that it happens and it shifts a significant population. And I'm going to give you some examples just to get your head wrapped around it. When disaster strikes, maybe 80% of the people brought in by a previous step leave, but maybe 20% are left. They are positively affected by the previous step that occurred. Now, when the next moment for the next one step occurs, maybe those 20% come back and they're able to reach, a tiny bit further. And thankfully, the Hero Academia narrative supports that mechanism. The narrative supports that with every step forward, even if you back up a little, even if you regress a little, every step is valuable because it builds more momentum. For instance, in chapter 324, we have the example of more momentum. If it wasn't for Izuku laying the groundwork before Ochako calls on people, so in other words, if it wasn't for Izuku going the extra step, trying to talk to Koda or going back to work after saving the big lady, if it wasn't for Izuku taking those steps, Koda and the giant lady don't walk up when Ochako takes her step. If Izuku didn't go the extra mile, that goodwill wouldn't have come back to him. So at that point, the best way to really put everything together is pretty much 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. It'll be slow, but eventually you'll be 1,000 steps from where you started. I'll touch on it a little bit more because what 324 does is legitimately really cool. But before that, so what should you take away from this? Well, one, the nature of society as depicted in Hero Academia, and the reality that we do have, in fact, a framework that suggests how things could pan out for Ochako's message if the series goes on for too long, or if Ochako wasn't the main female character. We could expect similar regression to what we got from the Can't You See Kid moment. The second thing to take away is that acknowledge that other people in the series have taken steps forward, and that this isn't, and that true to Ochako's words that no one is special, this isn't a distinction that is solely Ochako's, but also acknowledge that every single step is vital. Can't You See Kid's step is vital, Ochako's step is vital, Izuku's steps are vital, Kota's step is vital. The heroes that smile even when they're hurt, their steps are also vital. If you take out or devalue any of these people along the way, any of their one steps, the entire thing will fall away. And just to bring you the example, does Ochako do this without being inspired by the heroes that came before her? Maybe not. Ultimately, people help people. The people who take the first step do so because someone else took a step before them. And at the end of the day, when you think about it, that is pretty much the progression of society. That's how we build a better world. It's a continuous sequence of people pretty much taking the baton and moving forward and passing the baton when it's their time. The third thing is that you should acknowledge that Nezu's framework is a plot device that is extremely biased to both elevate Ochako because it's her moment, she's the main female character, it needs to be important, and also it's there to introduce Nezu's personal character goals and theme. You learn what Nezu is about, and you understand that he probably cares about intolerance because he is someone who was ultimately victimized for being an animal that had a quirk. Now, I would really love to talk about the new chapter. Mind you, if you haven't read the chapter, it's coming out on Sunday. You can just wait till you read 324. But in the new chapter, there's a moment where Nezu says one more step. But what's really cool about it is where that line happens. When he says that, we then get an actual physical step from Koda that happens after Ochako has talked. So really, when you look at it, the read is that Koda only does that once because Ochako took her step forward. And when you ultimately look at chapter 323's thing, chapter 323 says that the ultimate hero rises up after someone carves a path. So really, Ochako is absolutely vital. She creates a path, but the people before Ochako are just as vital, and the people that come after Ochako are just as vital. This is all a very nice interconnected net, and this ultimately comes back to Ochako's idea about like people help people. It's ultimately kind of cyclical. You kind of keep doing this. But that's pretty much it for me. You know, I made this video because I thought Nezu's words might be a little bit too biasing. I think I still, as a reviewer, I still legitimately do think that his were a little bit muddied. I think that the author had to try and squeeze Nezu's rhetoric in, and I think just because of the wording, it kind of gives a different feel. And ultimately, for other readers and fans of Hero Academia, what I want you to take away is just appreciate that other people are taking steps forward, not just the people that happen to be in front of Nezu's eyes. And personally, I know I'm the one talking about it. I do think that is a fair thought, general appreciation. If you want to talk more about rhetoric, you know, it is cool too. I think the author knows what he's doing. I think he does want to play into it's a succession of people. Again, this is just entirely an issue of the wording for Nezu. I guess that would leave me with the question for you guys. When you read this particular page for Nezu, what did you feel about it? Did you feel like this is giving Ochako more importance? Or were you not looking at the wording too much and you got like the general gist, like, oh yeah, you know, Ochako is one of many? Let me know what you thought down below. Thank you so much for watching, and till next time, I hope you have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed this format for the video. Maybe I'll make a few more like this. Anyway, till next time, everyone.